it's really important that you're able to at some point look back and say, I'm actually better now than I used to be, because wherever you are as a musician, man, it always feels like I'm not really that good. Like, even professional musicians, when they take a look at where they are, they're like, well, yeah, I can play some stuff, but I'm not that good. And kind of everybody feels this way. So it's really important that wherever you are, if you're a beginner, intermediate, professional, that you're able to look back and go, okay, so I can definitely see there's so much work that I have to do, and I want to get so much better, but I actually have come a long way. So today we're going to talk about finally some place where some adults have a slight advantage over kids, and that's where we're going to set goals and we're going to try to obtain them, and then we're going to reward ourselves for achieving those goals. So this will probably help if you have a teacher. If you do have a teacher, they should be doing some of this stuff for you, or at least guiding you through this. So if you already have a piano teacher and you're a kid, well then that's really good news. But if you don't, that's fine, because we can still do this stuff on your own. You just need help setting your own goals. So the assignments section here, you can set up your own assignments. This is just something that you see, you know how to do, and your muscles can't do it yet. So it's something you can't play yet, but you do understand how to do it. And that's what an assignment should be. If you've got a teacher, they should be giving you assignments that you understand how to do them. And you're like, oh yeah, totally, that makes sense. I could probably do that. But when you go to actually do it, you can't actually do it yet. That's what an assignment is. If you've got an assignment that doesn't make sense, you either need a new teacher or you need a new assignment. So the assignments are, this is a thing that I makes sense to me. I think I can do this. I'm gonna try to do this. And then you wanna make sure you put a date on it too. So whatever the date is, you wanna put that in there, and you wanna put in whatever your assignment is there. And then don't go back for another assignment until you accomplish that one. That's what I'd say. Like, these are each individual goals, and you want to make sure you have a date of the when you set the goal, when you made the assignment. And then honestly, like, man, even if you have a teacher, in a lot of cases, you wouldn't need to go back for another lesson until this assignment is done. And sometimes you need to go back for a lesson sooner than it's scheduled. So that's kind of the problem with, like, and this is a whole other topic, but having a lesson like every week or every 2 weeks, like sometimes assignments take 1 day or 2 days to accomplish, and sometimes they take 3 or 4 weeks to accomplish. So really you need another lesson when you need another assignment, and that happens whenever you're done with your assignment. So if you've got a teacher with a flexible schedule who's like, yeah, you can, set up a lesson with me in a couple days or in a few weeks or whatever, that's the best. I would go back whenever you're done with your assignment. But again, if you don't have a teacher, then great, you're your own teacher. Go back for another assignment whenever you finish that one. So that's kind of the point of this. And then when you get to the end of this, the point is not to just like keep track of your assignments, but the purpose is that when you get down to the bottom of your list down here, you can look back over all the things you've done and you're like, I feel like I'm really not that great a musician. There's so much more work that I have to do out there, but you can look back and go, but I accomplished this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and this should be a really rewarding list for you. So don't throw away these assignment pages when you fill them all out. When you fill them all out is when they're finally the most valuable, because you get to go back and look at all the things you've accomplished. Now this next part is probably the most important part, because students all the time are coming to me and saying, I've been playing for 5 years, or I've been playing for 10 years, or you ask someone if they're good at piano or not, and they're like, yeah, I've been playing since I was 5. I have no idea what that means, because in music, as in most things that you're gonna try to get good at in life, it doesn't really matter how long you've been doing it or when you started it. What really matters is how many minutes or how many hours have you put in that where you were focused on getting a little bit better at it, where you were using up 80 or 90 or 100% of your brain power just focused on trying to get a tiny little bit better at this thing. So that's really how we count musicians, is not in how many years you've been playing, but how many hours do you have of focused practice? And so that's where you want to keep track of this thing. And just like the assignments page, this thing is one where you're going to look back and then see how much you've accomplished and see how much better you were than you were before. So if you have a lesson day, that's great. If not, then just set this to whatever today is. So maybe that's Monday or Tuesday, and then you can write in the rest of them. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And so you're just gonna be keeping track within a week of how many minutes you're putting in that is focused practice time. It's really important here that you do not, even though you wanna set a goal at the beginning, like this week I'd like to get, 60 minutes of focused practice time in. If you don't get the 60, that's cool. don't beat yourself up. Just try it again the next week. And if you go 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 weeks and you don't hit your goals, probably you need to lower your goals, but also don't beat yourself up, because if you've practiced for 30 minutes total in your life, you're a 30-minute musician. Cool, that's what you are. If you've practiced for 100 hours, cool, then you're a 100-hour musician. There's no punishment for only being a 99-hour musician. So however much time you put in, that's great. Reward yourself for that. That's great. And setting the goals is something that's really important for some people and not so much for other people. What I do with my students is I always set a really ridiculously low goal. Like if they come in for a lesson, let's say on a Tuesday, I'm gonna say, okay, before next Tuesday, let's try to get in 5 minutes of focused practice, but it's gotta be 5 minutes of really hard focused practice. Now, let me throw this in here. This does not have to do with the chart, but usually your really good progress in practice time is not going to happen within like the first 3 to 5 minutes, because that's usually just like trying to get your muscles engaged, get your brain engaged. You're just practicing getting focused. So usually a lot of progress doesn't happen until after that 5-minute mark or so. But it's also true that like once you get past a certain point, like sometimes it doesn't help anymore. So for some people that's like 2 hours of practice. Like they can practice for 2 hours and really make good progress. I can't do that, but they can practice for 2 hours and make really good progress during that time. But after that, like it's called diminishing returns. It just means that you're like not really making very much progress anymore, even though you're sitting there and you're trying to focus. Just your brain has already absorbed all that it possibly can. And what really needs to happen is you need to go away from your instrument and let all of that stuff just kind of settle in. It's not uncommon at all that I hear from students who they practice really hard and they're trying really hard at this thing and they can't do it and they just quit. And they come back the next day, they're like, all right, fine, I'll try it. And all of a sudden they can play it. And they're like, this is amazing, this is a miracle. And I'm like, actually that happens all the time, because there's only so much that you can cram into your head before it soaks in, and there's no way to rush the soaking in process. So sometimes you just gotta like practice for that, 5 minutes to get warmed up, and then the next 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of practice is gonna be like filling your brain full of stuff, and then you just got to go away. And usually sleep helps a lot too, so you can get some good sleep and it'll start to soak in, and when you come back you'll actually be a better musician than when you left, because you got all this stuff that's now soaked in and now you're ready to make some more progress with some more focused practice. So back to the goal idea is you want to set a ridiculously small goal that you can definitely accomplish, hopefully something you accomplish in that first day, so that at the end of the week, when you add up your total minutes, you got, let's say, 5 minutes on this day and 0 minutes on that day and 10 minutes on that day and 0 and 0 and 0, and you get a total of 15. Well, 15 is greater than 5, so way to go. You beat your goal. I don't recommend that you take this number and you put it over here and just try to do more minutes that next week. What I would recommend is whatever that goal was, make it slightly higher. So even if you like totally crushed your goal, like you were trying for 5 minutes and you got a total of 15 minutes in the week, like, oh yeah, 15 minutes, I can do that. I wouldn't make it 15. I'd go for maybe like 6 or maybe like 10 minutes, or something that's still accomplishable and something you can crush, because you want to crush your goals every single time. You do want those goal minutes to go up. So hopefully by the end down here, we're higher than 11 minutes. You'd want to have, oh man. So I'm hearing all of the parents in the back of my head now who've asked me over the years, hundreds of them, how many minutes should we be practicing every week? I hate that question and I hate this answer, but I'll give it to you anyway. It's pretty common that students would practice 3 to 5 times a week for 15 to 20 minutes. That was a useless answer, but people need an answer to the question. The truth is, like, I got students that only come in every week, and that's the only practice they get is the half hour that they're with me. And whatever, they're getting better at the rate of half an hour a week. So by the end of the year, they're gonna be about 25 hours better than at the beginning of the year. Cool. There are other students that have to practice an hour or 2, or in some cases 3 or 4 a day. And so at the end of the year, they're gonna have, they're gonna be a 1,000-hour musician because they've been putting in crazy hours. So It's really kind of whatever you feel like you can do. Again, like keeping in mind that whole thing about cramming your head full of stuff and letting it soak in. Whatever you feel like you can cram in and it doesn't make you want to not come back to your instrument the next time. Because if you practice a whole lot today and the next day you come back, you're like, oh, that instrument. Last time I started on that, I was there for like 3 hours and I don't have 3 hours to spend right now. You don't want that. You want to just sit down and like play for like 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, and maybe that'll turn into a minute, maybe that'll turn into 10 minutes, and maybe you'll get really distracted and you'll end up there for an hour. But you don't ever want to see your instrument and go, oh, that thing. Well, I can't do it right now because I don't have enough time. You want to always be able to like just sit at your instrument and just play for a couple seconds and walk away and have that be fun. So we're going to set reasonable, accomplishable goals, and at the end of the week, we're going to reward ourselves for accomplishing those goals, and we're not going to punish ourselves for not accomplishing those goals. And when I say reward ourselves, I mean that literally. Like if you set up a goal of 10 minutes and you happen to get 10 minutes that week, or 11 minutes, or 12 minutes, I would set up something ahead of time, like that you're going to have 15 minutes extra to do whatever it is that you like to do, video games or a show or something. Find some way that you can reward yourself for accomplishing your goal, and probably have it be appropriate to whatever your goal was. So if your goal was, 10 minutes of practice time, then you should have a goal, a prize that's appropriate for accomplishing 10 minutes. But usually people underestimate how much effort it takes. So they're like, 10 minutes, that really wasn't anything. I don't deserve a reward for 10 minutes, but you do. So take what you think is reasonable, add a little bit to it, and make that your reward for accomplishing your goal. And once again, at the end of this thing, once it's all filled out, it's not time to throw it away. It's time to put that at the front of your binder or on the music stand on your piano, so you can see, you know what, I've accomplished this. I'm a 5-hour musician now, or I'm a 10-hour musician now, or I'm a 2-hour musician now, or whatever it is. Like you are, if you're a 5-hour musician, you're 5 hours better than someone who hasn't practiced. They are not the musician that you are. They would have to practice 5 hours in order to get as good as you are now. So moving on to the next page here, this is the part that gets kind of intimidating. So we had those assignments, and we're keeping track of the assignments and when we accomplish those. And then we had all the practice time and rewarding ourselves for accomplishing our practice goals. This next one here is when you've got a song that's all done. So maybe your assignment was, I'm going to finish the song Ode to Joy. And so you get done with Ode to Joy and you move on to your next assignment. You're like, yes, I did it. And you see all your practice time and you've gotten your rewards for all of your practice time. And this is exciting stuff. Now it's time to play it for someone else. This can be anyone. This can be your mom, your dad, your partner, your kids, your cats, the spider in the corner of your room, but you need to have some kind of an audience and play it for them. And I know, let me stop you right here, because I know more than half of you are saying, but I don't really want to play so that I can perform. First of all, half of you are lying, because half of you are just afraid to perform and you actually do want to perform. But there's a bunch of people who actually don't want to perform for people. That's perfectly fine, but also it's really super duper helpful. So even if you're just calling up your grandma on the phone and saying, hey, I want to play a song for you, please don't tell me what you think at the end. I'm sure she'll think you're great, but please don't tell me what you think at the end. I just need to play this for someone. Playing for someone, knowing that someone else is listening to you, changes the way that your brain works. It adds more tension, more stress, and honestly more reward for what you're doing. So this is not about actually being a performer or playing for other people or sharing your music with the world, even though a lot of us want to do that. This is really about just trying to change the chemistry of your brain. Also, this is why we sometimes want to play on different instruments. So if you've got a keyboard and you have a piano, I'd recommend practicing on both of them. And if your friend has a piano, when they're not around, I would go over and, well, when they're not in the room. Don't go over to your friend's house when they're not at the house. But go over to their house, and when they're not in the room, play on their piano, because everyone's gonna feel a little bit different. If you're playing drums, maybe instead of trying to play your beat on your kit, try to play it on a bucket. Or if you're a guitarist, borrowing your friend's guitar, they probably have one laying around. A lot of homes do. So when you're over at their house, you're just picking it up and playing a couple chords, because it always feels a little bit different in each different environment. And that's the goal of performing here, is not to make you this great performer and to show off all of your skills, but to change your brain chemistry as you're playing, so that you're a great musician, not just when you are alone in your your room by yourself with your instrument, but so that you and your instrument have this relationship that no matter where you are, when the two of you get together, you make beautiful music. So here's how. So sadly, the lesson preview has come to an end, and it's time to say goodbye to everyone watching the free streams. Of course, paying subscribers at learnpianolive.com can continue watching this lesson and several hundred others like it in the archives. So come on over and check us out. And if you like what you saw, at least like and subscribe, and then tell your friends to head on over to learnpianolive.com to start enjoying this journey with us.